Hi, and thank you for stopping by my channel, A Square Pillow Isn't Square, the place where you will learn anything and everything you wanted to know about home deck sewing. Today's project isn't really a sewing project. We moved into a new house. I went to my local home improvement big box store, and I got these woven shades that I think are really beautiful. But in the States now, you can't buy shades that have cords on them anymore because they're a safety hazard to small children. You have to special order shades with cords. They only come with these cordless lift systems. So I was like, all right, let me try it. I do not like them, and let me show you why. You have to, first of all, you have to be able to reach as high as you want to reach to raise these things, but also they're just kind of cumbersome and bulky, and they don't, like if you just push them up, they just make a big crooked mess, and it's just really annoying. I have to just keep like going in and arranging the folds so that they look good. Made me nuts. So I thought I would do an experiment and try taking off the spring tension roller system and just rigging them like a Roman shade. And let me show you the difference. I have my cord here. They are pretty heavy, so I do just help support the weight a little bit to save wear and tear on my cords and so forth. But watch this. I mean, way easier. So I did the one and I was like, that's awesome. So I'm going to just show you how I did it, and we'll get the second one strung. But wait, before I show you this, it's really important to understand two things. One is that you will avoid any warranty that came with your shade if you alter it this way. And secondly, and even more importantly, is that cords really are a serious danger risk to babies and toddlers. When my grandchildren come to visit me, I have to be extremely diligent and watch them really carefully, and here's an example of why.
I'm calling Dada. Bye. Mama. I miss you. Bye.
So please, just think carefully before you convert a cordless shade to a corded shade. All right, with this disclaimer in place, let's see what we need to make this conversion. All right, let's start with the lift cord. I tend to get my lift cords and other workroom supplies from Rowley Company, Rowley, but I'm sure you can find suitable alternatives online if you like. I use the 1.4 millimeter for a shade like this. It's going to be definitely strong enough of a lift cord to use for these shades. See, it comes in different colors. Because the cords are going to hang on the front of this shade, it's always nice to color coordinate the cords to the shade that you're stringing. So in my case, I'm going to get the dark brown. So here is my roll of 1.4 millimeter brown cord. You're also going to need a pair of scissors and some screw eyes. The number of screw eyes you need equals the number of rows of cords that your shade came with. So in my case, it came with 2 rows of cords, plus either one more screw eye to take the cords out to the end of the board as a guide eye, or in my case, I'm going to use a tension lock, which I'll show you in a second. You'll need a tape measure or a yardstick. If you want a nice finished end on your cord, you can use a cord tassel. They come in wood and plastic. And if you don't use a tension lock, you will need some kind of a wall anchor. They come in a variety of sizes and shapes and colors and materials. If you're using a tension lock, it's an optional thing, but if you do not use a tension lock, you're going to need this to secure your cord. After you pull your cord up, you just wrap your cord in a figure 8 around the wall anchor to hold your shade in place. The next thing you'll need is something to make a pilot hole. You can either use a drill with a small drill bit, or you can use a punch or an awl with a hammer to tap a starter hole into your board. And lastly, you will need a Phillips head screwdriver. All right, on the back of your shade, the first thing that I did is I cut these pull cords but I still wanted to use this bottom anchor point, so I cut it up high enough where I could tie my new string. I had enough tail to tie my new string on, so I'm going to start by just cutting these. And if you heard that, that was the tension mechanism releasing. Once I cut that string, this thing will release now. These things here are somewhat of a safety device to kind of contain the lift cord, but I don't need them. I don't want to use them. So every place that's attached to a ring, I'm gonna cut this little cord off here. And as you can see, now I've got this nice flat shade with all these perfectly spaced Roman shade rings. The next thing I'm going to do is turn the shade over, and I'm going to take off all of the mechanisms that the cordless shade uses to lift. Just get your little screwdriver, and we're going to take these off. This is the front of the shade, this is the top, this is where the valance is going to go. We're going to open that up to the side that has all of the little holes drilled in it. See, the side doesn't have holes, so we're going to go to this side and measure in from each side to where this eyelet is. On this shade, it's about 9 inches in. And I'm going to make a mark on my board about 9 inches in on either side. Now you can either take a punch and a hammer and make a starter hole, or you can pre-drill. Just make sure you don't go too far. This is just so we don't split the wood when we put our screw eye in. Okay, now put a screw eye in each location. I usually start it by hand. And then I'll use a screwdriver or my punch to help me with the torque, make it a little easier to screw it in. And you'll just screw that till the base of your eyelet is flush. And don't need to go any tighter than necessary, just to the base of this ring part. And you're going to want to stop that in the vertical direction. Like that. The only other holes you have to drill are either for your tension lock that's going to be located near the end of the board, or for your last screw eye. If you choose not to use a tension lock, you'll need a guide eye near the end of the board. When I've done my Roman shade videos, people have been trying to do these videos by picking up these tension locks on Amazon, and we're having a lot of quality control issues, and they're not catching the cord. Some of them work, some of them don't work. I'm going to link to a Sale Text, which is one of the few places left that sells a decent cord lock. Now determine which side of the shade you want your control on, right control or left control. I usually go in about just about an inch or so from the end, because I want to make sure my hole isn't too close to the end where I might split the wood. So I'm just going to pre-drill a couple holes here. install this after I get my cords through. Next, we're going to cut some lengths of lift cord. Each cord is actually going to be a different length. So the way that we figure out how long our rough cut should be is you're going to look at the back of your shade and it should look something like this. We're going to need a piece of cord for each row of rings. You start by measuring up from the bottom, leaving a generous tail. Go all the way up to the top of the board. You take the cord over to where your last screw eye or where your tension lock is going to be, and then give yourself plenty of length for your pull cords on the side, and that's going to be your first rough cut. Now measure the same way for your next row. As you can see, this cord is going to be a little bit longer because it has farther to travel across the end of the board to get to your tension lock or last screw eye. So make sure that this one is longer and then bring that down the side to approximately the same length as your first cord. And now I'm going to tie these together. And I'm going to do a nice double knot. I'm going to do that twice. Right over left, left over right. Looks nice and strong. You can even put a dot of glue on this knot if you want to make sure it doesn't come loose. But that one's not going anywhere. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Next is we're just going to run this up through every ring. Come around the other side. And come up through the front. Now, as I said, mine is going to be a left draw. So I'm going to take my cords through this eyelet, till it looks like that. Make sure your cords are nice and even. As you can see, there is a little staple on one side and the ends of the staple on the other side. The correct way to put this on is the staple end, not the finished side, but the side with the two ends is going to face the inside of your shade, and this is going to face the outside of your shade. So this is going to go on like this, but I found it easier to string these before I put them on. So you come in through the side, and then simply drop your cord down, shake it down so your rollers are not touching each other, and thread it down between the two rollers. And as you see, it came out the other end. And then I'll bring this one. Same thing. Going to go through the side and then drop it down through the rollers. And just make sure that it comes out a different channel on the bottom. And now I'm going to put it on here using a couple of the screws that I took off from the cordless lift mechanism. The last thing I do is make sure that this is nice and flat. Make sure your cords have nice even tension on them. And I will tie them together in a knot at the top here. Like so. That is literally all there is to it. Now determine what you want your finished cord length to be. Slide your little cord tassel on, make a big knot, trim it off, pull that cord tassel down on top of your knot, and you're done. Here's the first one that I did. And here's the last one that I did. Look at that. Yay! Super easy. Nothing to it. The product that I actually used in this video was from Lowe's Home Improvement Store. It's a Levolor light filtering cordless Roman shade.